What's going on, everybody? I am Jason Aponte. As usual, I am joined by Angelina, don't call me Lena Martin, and Steph, Drip Too Hard Sanchez, both of the 49er K pod. What's going on, guys?
What's up, Jason? Thank you so much for having us. We love live. We love Jason, so I'm pumped about you, Steph.
And Steph had to come on here. Steph had to come on here with the retro shirt and just like kind of flex on everybody real quick, right?
Always. You know? I was gonna say I'm excited because we're like 10 days away from the draft.
We are 10, right? We're Kyle Williams days away from the draft. We are. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. That was the one that was a little bit off. Well, everybody was like, "Where?" Go ahead.
I'm just excited to stop talking about the draft. I'm looking forward to not hearing what the national media has to say about the 49ers and all the speculation. So just excited to get it over with, man.
Absolutely. So that leads us right into basically the big news of today, Trey Lance's pro day. And who could have seen that the buzz around Trey Lance grew after a pro day? Funny, right? So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts because obviously this pro day was closed off to the public. We're seeing what we're seeing on social media, which is really about like 2 or 3 throws. Really, I feel like NDSU's social media team isn't as good as OSU's. Can we confirm that?
Yeah, they weren't posting as much as OSU, definitely. But is that because there wasn't as much to show, or were they just slacking on the job? I don't know. That's something that we'll have to look into.
That's what we're here to talk about. So, Steph, real quick, what did you think about Trey Lance's pro day and what you could see from the timeline?
Yeah, I think from the fans' perspective, it was just hard to get a feel for what actually happened. Like you said, we really only saw a few throws, and it's funny because they posted a couple videos of the same throw, and I'm like, okay, we already saw this. It was just like a different angle, and also like just the angles of the videos themselves, like it was following the ball, and I can't see like if he's leading the receiver or if the receiver had to like wait for the ball that way. So I don't know. It didn't really do it justice, I don't think. But I mean, we also weren't there, so the people who mattered were there. So,
yep. Angie?
Pretty much the same. It was hard to kind of tell what was going on, but I know the throws going around Twitter are some pretty big yardage throws. But I mean, once again, it's a pro day, and I would say the same about Justin Fields. It's not a game. They do show us a little bit, but it's not showing us the entire athlete. So obviously, the top 4 quarterbacks in the draft for me are Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, and Fields. So if we get any of those 4, I'm going to be happy. And I was happy with what he did today, but it's still Fields for me at the end of the day, if we're basing it off pro days.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll get to that portion of it, but I think it's important to keep in the context that pro days aren't designed to help you. They can only hurt you. And I heard that from Marco Martinez, actually, so I'm not going to pretend like that's something that I came up with. But it's absolutely true. Honestly, pro day shouldn't swing you from your evaluation, what's on tape, what you've seen should be that. And this should be just confirmation or to either show you something that you're afraid of, right? So the one thing that I want to dispel real quick is that, someone tried to make it seem like Coach was wearing a Puma sweater. And I'm not trying to crap on Puma, but I know for a fact Coach is not dripping in a Puma sweater. He's not pulling up in no Puma sweater. So I got really offended when people were like, there's Coach, look at him right there. And I was like, that's a Puma sweater. Coach would never, okay? Would never. That's the one narrative of what we show. Yeah, no, someone was trying to make it seem like that was Coach. And I'm like, that's a Puma sweater. That's not Coach. I'd put what little I have in my bank account that's not Coach. I promise you.
Anyone that knows him knows he's rolling up to pressers and Yeezys, like Adidas gang,
Right. He's going to pull up. He's not pulling up in limited edition Pumas. He's pulling up in limited edition Yeezys. That's our Coach drips different. Like he just but with Trey, honestly, I think Angie kind of hit it on the head. The 49ers would be happy to have any of these guys. Just because we prefer Fields doesn't mean that we're against Lance. And I think that's really what people get, I guess mistaken when it comes to this. It's like, yes, we're pro Fields, but it doesn't mean we're anti everyone else. But the pro day today shouldn't really have swung you one way or the other, right? So much of what's been going on, especially with Justin Fields, right? All of a sudden after Justin Fields has his pro day, oh my goodness, the odds have swung. well, now there's buzz around Trey Lance, but who could have seen that coming? Wait, he had a pro day today. And it's almost like watch, rinse, repeat. So like Steph, you kind of alluded to it a little bit. Talk to me about like the media and like what's going on with the speculation.
I mean, people just got to remember they're doing their jobs. Like, they have a tough job of having to make the draft and the first few picks sound super interesting for months. And in order to do that, you have to kind of look at it from a different angle or like put a spin to it, create something that's not really there. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't put too much into it if I'm a fan. And really, nobody knows what the 49ers are going to do. Just remember that, you know?
Yeah. 49ers don't leak.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned, Jason, that, you know, after a pro day, there's always buzz around an athlete, because I feel like we saw the opposite kind of with Mac Jones. I feel like his draft value like tanked because, well, I wouldn't say tanked. That was like definitely a hyperbole, but he didn't do great. I mean, we saw all the memes of Kyle Shanahan just like watching him throw. So I feel like that's funny that you mentioned that, just because I immediately thought of Mac Jones and like how Twitter was basically cracking up at his pro day, and people still want to draft him. Granted, you know, it didn't change their mind about who they want to pick.
Yeah, but that's more people that want their narrative to be correct, right? As opposed to like at least lining things up and putting on a tinfoil hat like I do to try and line all this stuff up. Or like we've all been doing. Honestly, that's all we've been doing this entire time, is just literally sitting there trying to connect dots. QB Collective retweets Akash, and I was just like, oh, there it is. I was like, there's more. Like it's all that stuff is going on. So this is a good question, actually. Callie asks, what did you think of Michael Lombardi's comments? Dude is arrogant. I'm not going to say the word. It's a family show. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's what I took away from that is almost, oh, well, who are your sources? You don't know. I know. I can't wait to pull that receipt whenever pick 3 is called. Honestly, I wouldn't be on. I'm not in the petty boat. You know, I can be. My bookmarks are filled with people who have said things that are completely wrong, and that's fine. But him, that one kind of felt like an attack on anybody else who is trying to use logic to put together where this pick could go, and making it seem like, oh, well, you don't know. I know people. No, you don't know, because you don't know. Unless Kyle, John, Adam Peters, or Jed York told you, you have no idea. Any thoughts on Michael Lombardi's I'll start with Angie. On Michael Lombardi's arrogance and confidence?
Well, like you said, everyone has a tinfoil hat on. How many times in past drafts have people gotten things wrong versus people getting things right? Like everyone's just guessing. And if you hit, that's great. But yeah, you don't need to put yourself up on a pedestal like Kyle Shanahan's whispering in your ear or something, because 100%, 101% he's not, you know? So I don't have a problem with being confident in what you think the 49ers are going to do with the draft, but acting like it's like there's only one option. If you think anything else, you're an idiot, is not the way to go.
Absolutely. Steph?
Yeah, I agree. And again, like nobody knows what's going to happen. Some of these guys, like their reputation isn't really on the line. Like they're going to be famous even after this, even if they get it wrong. So they have nothing to lose to just throw something out there and hope it sticks. Yeah. I don't know. I don't take
one of those little sticky hands.
Yeah. I mean, I don't take what he says as a gospel. Definitely not.
Okay. All right. Melissa has a question here too. This one's really good. What do you think of Twitter making a big deal that Jordan Matthews was actually there at Trey Lance's pro day catching passes? Jordan Matthews will always find his way on this roster one way or another, whether it's practice squad. Somehow he and Dante Johnson will be on this roster in 2028 and 2029, whenever that happens. So do you guys put any stock into that?
Does he live in the area? Like, do we know? Was he like available? They needed a receiver, or
that's a really good question, honestly, Angie. So realistically, what happens is right now NDSU is actually in their season. They're in season, so they've already had people in Trey's first day be there. So you needed other people to be there. Now Kyle Shanahan is the one kind of orchestrating this pro day and the script. So him bringing Jordan Matthews along is someone that I know, and maybe he wanted to see himself throw, 2 wide receivers that he knows and that are NFL caliber. So there's a lot to it. You can choose whatever side you want to be on it, whether that's straight up tinfoil hat or just straight up logic. Like, hey, look, their receivers are battling COVID protocols and they can't exactly be there the entire time because they do have a game coming up, I think recently, like very soon actually. So that's the part that's a little bit, but did that change anything that you thought? Like, is that more like, oh, look, Kyle's trying to see him with his guys, or?
For me, go ahead, Steph.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, it could be a mix of both of those things. But I definitely think Kyle would maybe want to see him throw to one of Kyle's receivers and not be as comfortable. Cause like, if you're throwing with someone that is your teammate or former teammate, like you have a lot of chemistry with them, the timing is right. So, maybe that was a way to kind of test that and his accuracy.
Yeah, when you get drafted to a team in the first round, you're going to be with new receivers. So that's a good way to test that.
Yeah, honestly. And you know what? Like, from what I saw from all the throws, they look amazing. Look, again, this pro day doesn't change the way I thought of Trey Lance. I've always been on that. It's just now that I prefer Fields, people think that I've gotten away from that. And that's not true at all. So, even if, let's say, pick 3 comes along and it's Trey Lance, I'm not going to be upset because I understand the fit. I understand all those things. They run all those Shanahan concepts. He looked good his first pro day. And those throws that are out there right now, they look amazing. One of the throws that really took me was there was a throw that, how the camera tries to move and keep up with the ball. The ball never moved from the camera. That's how hard he threw it. And that's how far he threw it down the field. So those are impressive throws. And those are all there on film and everything as well. So like I said, pro day shouldn't swing you one way or another. But that leads me into my next topic. Did today's performance move the needle for you at least one way or the other? I'll let whoever you guys want to start.
Well, I feel like I already said this, that I would prefer that they draft Fields over Trey Lance. But I wanted to ask you, because I'm not an analyst. I never played football, so it's hard for me to like look at players and see
stop it.
Overall,
just stop it. There's plenty of people who have played the game that don't know what they're talking about. Plenty of people who have studied the game that don't know what they're talking about. So just, all it is our opinion. So Angie, however you feel is however you feel.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, as someone who does study film and like, I consider you a pretty good expert on watching film. Like, what are some differences between them and why are you like higher on Fields now than you are on Lance?
So with Fields, I've got a longer track record of him playing, right? Trey Lance has the same amount of starts as Mac Jones. Okay. So if it's a knock on Trey Lance for experience, then it's a knock on Mac Jones, and which has been my point all across the board. If you're going to say that one person is inexperienced, then you need to say that other person is inexperienced, just because he's been insulated with more talent in a better conference. Shouldn't change the fact that if you think 17 starts is too little for one, it should be too little for that other person. With Fields, I see the toughness. I see the accuracy to all 3 levels. I see when he's protected and he has a pocket that he will pick you apart. Nowhere is he running the ball or anything like that away from reads. That's a narrative that's out there. But I enjoy his toughness, and I think really his smarts more than anything. And you're going to see that. And Trey Lance is super smart also. That's the thing that really has me like on him as well too, is that he's allowed to make pro ready reads, like left, right, knowing what he has to check. He's been doing that the entire time. Those are all pluses for Trey Lance. But when when the word pro ready comes across my timeline and it's about Mac and it's about Trey, Justin Fields is more pro ready, probably, I would say, than those guys. I would say right now, and that's why I had to mute pro ready, because people can never tell me what pro ready or ceiling means. They can never tell me what they mean as who has the higher ceiling or what pro ready actually means. So that's why I had to stay away from it. But as far as everything that I see, Justin Fields has a long track record, and he's won in big games. And, to have his ribs cracked and throw 6 tutties against your golden boy, that's stuff that people don't, put into context when they talk about him. So with Trey, I love Trey. I love the ceiling there. I just said it. I love his potential. But at the same time, if we're talking about pro ready right now, Justin Fields can step in and start week 1, as opposed to me. I believe that Trey Lance should sit for 1 year and then get going.
Who's your pick, Steph?
Who's my pick? I mean, come on, guys.
Oh, yeah. It's written on the board. It's written on the wall.
And again, like Jason said, like this doesn't mean that I don't like Trey Lance, and actually I've always liked him. And like does his performance change anything for me? Again, like not really. Like you were saying, Jason, it kind of just should confirm your feelings on him. At least if they do a good job. I think if they did a bad job in their pro day, it's like you should be a little concerned at
Like
least.
Mac?
Yeah.
It's like set up for you to succeed, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're throwing against air, like people say all the time. So if you do bad, I'm worried. But if you do good, it's like, okay, that was expected. And I'll just say this, like whether it should change something for the team depends on whether you think they traded up for someone that they already had in mind. Because if they did already have someone in mind, this doesn't change anything for them. But if they didn't, then yeah, it absolutely makes a difference to them. And
I can't believe I'm getting trolled on my own show. Yeah, I'm getting trolled on my own show by Vish, man. Incredible.
Man. No, I'm tired of hearing Mac Jones. I mean, I think he'll be a good quarterback, but
He will.
So
again, go ahead, Angie.
Oh, I saw an interesting thing on Twitter. Someone said, and when you're talking about pro ready, it reminded me of it. Like, do you think that a quarterback has a better chance? Like, does their capability of being pro ready increase if they're drafted by the 49ers, who have, above average roster than you normally see in the top 5 picks?
Yeah, and look, I've said this many times. Here's how you become a big wig NFL analyst when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. Insert quarterback name here would be amazing in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. Boom. Yeah. Boom. Now look, I'm a big wig quarterback analyst now. That's it. I just did it. Same thing about Wilson, same thing about Fields, same thing about Lance, same thing about Mac. Every single person. And all this Mac stuff came from people believing that Kyle Shanahan's ideal quarterback is Kirk Cousins, right? And that's all that's coming from. That's not coming from speculation inside the building. That's not coming from anybody. Those 4 people that know didn't tell anybody that. That's you thinking you're smarter than everybody, also generating clicks and content. But yes. Here's the other thing too. Steph touched on it. Us 3, any of us, we put out an opinion. People are going to save those as bookmarks and they're going to come back and dunk on us. NFL analysts miss like 7, 8 times out of 10, and no one ever says anything to them, and they're fine. They get to just go back to their job at NFL Network, ESPN, all that stuff. Like, and it's so crazy to me because the same thing came up with Michael Lombardi. Michael Lombardi, because he's such a jerk, I'm going to go in on him. Michael Lombardi told you to your face that Kyler Murray wasn't the pick at number 1 when that was the worst kept secret in the history of the NFL draft. Okay, I'm not an NFL insider, and whatever little money I had in my bank account, I would have put immediately on Kyler Murray being number 1. And he was pushing a narrative to you that Kyler Murray was not going to be drafted by the guy who was just hired, Cliff Kingsbury. And you expect me to think that he knows that it's not Justin Fields at 3? Stop playing, man. I don't understand this. And his track record across the board. What was the other one? There was another one that was just insane about, again, like, all right, so more about the leaks. Quentin Williams was supposed to go over Bosa, right? We saw how that went. Again, look, I don't agree with Colin Cowherd on many things, but today he kind of was just like, he woke up and he was like, I'm spitting facts today, honestly. He woke up and said, so a team that traded for Trent Williams that you didn't know about, a team that traded up to 3 that you didn't know about, a team that traded for Jimmy Garoppolo that you didn't know about, now all of a sudden is letting you know that Mac Jones is the pick at 3. He was like, yeah. He was like, no. And look, I don't agree with him all the time. He's sometimes the mouthpiece for certain things, but today he woke up and he chose facts. So again, with the speculation about Mac, you guys are just speculating, and that's all it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The Niners picking Joe Montana. Let's move on to the next pick. So, all right. So I think we know. Are we in agreement that the pick at 3 is? Go ahead, Angie.
Fields. Justin Fields. Fields, great baby, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Is that a saying? Are we putting that on a shirt? Is that?
Yeah, I forgot who said it on Twitter, and they're probably going to be mad when they like that. I didn't remember who it was, but I feel like it was. I'll tag him later. I'll think of it.
All
But
right,
honestly,
yeah.
like iconic. Whoever thought of that? Fields' great baby is iconic. Love it.
It kind of just segues from one era of the quarterback to the next, right? Like it's
Yeah, it's
literally
like
one saying into the next, and I think that it's good. All right, so here's a question, Kyle. Oh no. Kyle says, how many Richie James would you need to go 16-0? 22. 22, Kyle, on both sides. 11 and 11. They got to start on both sides. If you have 22 Richie James, 16-0 is in your cards, buddy. I
bless
mean,
his heart.
I love that.
Kyle.
I love that that's his brand and he just sticks to it. I really do. I really love it, man.
It's like
Honestly.
McKinnon and the Wildcat.
He'll be like off the team and he'll still be like talking about Richie James. We love you, Kyle.
We do love you, Kyle, and we love your convictions and like getting that follow back. Like I wish Jarek McKinnon would follow me back. That's never gonna happen ever. Like,
Yeah, not now.
no, yeah, I know. But I mean, even though he was on IG wearing his, 49ers sweater, so tinfoil hat on, it's still the door is not closed.
Not over. Yeah, it's not over. Like the Notebook, you're out there in front of his house. It's not over.
All right, so we've got a donation. Thank you, Keith Murphy, Sports Takes and Debates. Is Kyle Shanahan an innovator or a dinosaur? This pick will show us. This is a good question. I'll let you guys start first. So Angie, tell me what you think.
I was just talking about this with a couple of friends at lunch that if they mess up this pick, like it's not the business. It's not like, to me as a fan, like I've never doubted Shanahan before, but like if it happens again, that's reason for doubt to creep into your mind. So exactly what Keith said, this pick will show us, like, is he willing to continue to evolve with the league, or is he going to go with something that, is supposedly what everyone thinks is his quarterback, his style of quarterback, which I don't think you can say that about him because his offense is so unique and can be shaped around any quarterback, really.
You spitting, Angie. Go ahead, Steph.
I definitely think he's an innovator.
Yo.
I definitely think he's an innovator. I mean, he's not a dinosaur. I mean, just the Shanahans in general, that coaching tree runs deep, and basically the entire league is running some sort of like Shanahan concepts going back to Mike Shanahan. So I definitely think he's an innovator. I trust him. He has made some mistakes, but I ultimately feel like he's learned from them. So, and even if he does pick Mac Jones, I just want to say, like, if he does pick Mac Jones will be a good quarterback on the 49ers as long as Kyle is a coach. So
I hope so.
I hope so. So I just want to say that I think right away the fan reaction if they did draft Mac Jones would just be total uproar and people, wanting to fire him. But I still think they'd be good. So
I wouldn't want to fire him. There would just be like one little tiny seed of doubt in my mind.
Well,
it would suck to have to wait and like see what the results are. I mean, either way, like no matter who they pick, we're gonna have to like wait and see. Justin Fields or Trey Lance isn't like a guaranteed superstar. No quarterback is, and people have shown that with going back and looking at first round picks that have been busts. So
yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Right. Well, my thing is this. If he chooses Mac Jones, that's fine. But I feel like the clock starts to tick immediately because that is the pick that you're the smartest in the room, right? So this is now you're saying, okay, I'm gonna bypass the toolsy guys to show you that I can win with someone who is a traditional pocket passer. So with me, I feel like if you draft Fields or Lance, you get a window of like a year, maybe two, of trying to figure out what goes on. But if you draft Mac Jones, the clock starts because you're expected to win immediately. So I think that's really where it is. And I think that when you hear Coach talk about, when he watched Josh Allen, and he talked about how he really wanted Josh Allen, that kind of tells you that he's thinking about things the other way. And when again, I hate to keep pointing back to the press conference, but when you bring up the Kirk Cousins stuff to him, he got upset. He wasn't happy about that. He was really upset that you guys think that Kirk Cousins is the biggest and best. And honestly, when he talked about it, he said, hey, when you're drawing it up in the lab, you want biggest, fastest, strongest type guy. That's not Kirk Cousins type. So, like that's the part that has me thinking that he's leaning the other way. And I think that also he's kind of seen the limits of this offense with someone who has a similar skill set like Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And there we said his name for the first time. But John V, thank you, man, for the donation. Appreciate you. Fam, I hope you all have fun and exciting countdown to the draft. Keep grinding. Thank you for the content. Appreciate you, John. Let me see. We got one more question, I think. All right, here we go. This is a good question. If I can pull it up. Jesus. All
Sorry
right,
if you can hear my dog.
No, you're good. So
Okay.
Tony, appreciate the donation. If the 49ers draft Mac Jones, do they 100% have to move off Jimmy G before the start of the season? I will ask you guys first before I jump in.
No, I don't think you 100% have to move off of him no matter who you draft. Like if the rookie quarterback isn't ready, then keep Jim, I don't think you necessarily have to move off of him in any scenario, depending on who you draft and how they do and how they pick up the playbook. And we know it's a complicated playbook. So yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Steph?
I agree. I don't think that they have to. And I've been saying this whole time, like, I don't think they feel any pressure to, and I don't think they will unless they get a deal that they like. It's very possible they do get a deal that they like, especially draft night. Maybe we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't know, because I feel like the drafting of Mac Jones feels redundant with the skill set of Jimmy Garoppolo. He seems to be a faster processor, at least at a college level, which doesn't all the way translate to the NFL is the other thing. But I see the redundancy with their skill set, and it's just like, man, I don't know. Like, if you kind of wanted that guy, you have that guy right now. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a younger, cheaper Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think you've kind of seen the ceiling when it comes to that. And I don't know if that's enough to push you over the top. Like, being one drive away in the Super Bowl, I don't know if Mac Jones gets that done. I don't know. I don't know if that's the move, right? So here, let's see. One more. Raymond Martinez Jr., thank you for the donation, bro. Coaches talked about how much he loved Wentz. Why wouldn't he love Lance? Same school, similar play concepts, stats, size, etc. It's a good point. It's a very good point, honestly. And we've talked about that. He runs those RPOs and those bootlegs that, the leaks, all those concepts are there. So do you guys have any thoughts about the Wentz, and Lance connection? Because he did effuse a bunch of praise on Carson Wentz when they played, the Eagles this year.
I mean, I'll just say this. I think he does like Lance a lot. I mean, the fact that Kyle had, is it John Beck, right? Or Joe? John Beck.
John Beck.
He had John Beck work with Lance, Fields, and Zach Wilson. Tells you a lot about who he's interested in. And so, yeah, I think the connection there makes sense.
Well, I think going back to the press conference again and Kyle saying that, you want the biggest, strongest guy, I think Lance fits that bill without even comparing him to, Wentz. And so does Justin Fields. I don't know if Zach Wilson does, but I think it's important to also talk about the hype that has surrounded Justin Fields since his pro day and the possibility that he could go number 2. And maybe we'll see Zach Wilson on the board at 3, and maybe that's who they end up with. But yeah, I agree with what Steph said, that I could see the similarities and why that would be a question someone would ask.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that I talk about when people can't explain to me the ceiling. I think I know, but I don't think anyone else can tell me within reason why they think that the ceiling is higher, right? I think I can see it because the guy's big, strong. He looks like he's an Adonis. Like he's literally like one of the biggest men I've ever seen in my life. And he's also smart, and he's also run those same Kyle Shanahan concepts, right? And I think that when people throw around the Josh Allen comp, that's what really gets you excited, because after year 3, look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen went from being an absolute bust to an MVP candidate. But again, all in due time. And you have to give him time to do that. And I think that's where Trey Lance, what I'm talking about, is like when you bring him on, you have to be patient with him. Like, let him take his lumps. And that's what I talk about when I got yelled at in the comments for saying this. But 49er fans, no matter who your rookie starting quarterback is, why are you believing that a Super Bowl is right there in your face. I don't know if that should be. You should kind of temper your expectations because look, no rookie quarterbacks ever won a Super Bowl. That's absolutely true. Ben Roethlisberger won in his second year. Russell Wilson won in his second or third year. Who wouldn't want that sort of timeline? Why does it need to be immediate when you need to like see the fruits of your labor pay off eventually with this guy? And I think that's the part that I try to throw caution to the wind when it comes to 49ers fans about, hey, this is straight up not a Super Bowl team right off the bat. You know, there's a lot of things that go around that. So you should think about this in the right way. Like everything should be building towards that Super Bowl. It shouldn't just be one straight year of it.
Yeah. Well, it's for sure hard when you were so close to a Super Bowl victory and you have that window, you know, like there's a lot more pressure, I feel. So I get it in that sense, but you're absolutely right. Like what quarterback comes in and wins it his first year? None ever. So
absolutely.
But also to Angie's point, like just all the 1-year deals that they've done this year, especially on the defense, like there is definitely some pressure.
There's expectations. Yeah, there's expectations to win now. Yeah. So here's the thing: is all of those moves that you guys are alluding to, those 1-year deals, have allowed them the flexibility to move up to 3, and that's the point, right? Is like you can't you don't have to sit there at 12 anymore and wait for whoever's there. Now you make a move because basically that defense is filled right back out. You've brought back Trent. You have basically your whole offense there. So they've done an amazing job of setting themselves up, even if trading up wasn't the number one priority. This is clearly not what the 49ers wanted to do immediately, but this is where I give the front office credit, is where you can look at, hey, we whiffed on this, whoever that is, let's make the move now. And they're thinking about things differently. And I think that's what 49er fans should be excited about. The recovery 716, thank you for the donation. Love the show, guys. I would draft Lance because of his potential. He's got the edge for me. I do like Fields, but I think Lance is more exciting. That's not wrong. Again, that's not a wrong opinion or anything like that. And again, thank you for the donation. But it's really again, it really comes down to what your expectations are for next year. You know, I'm still of the mind that if Trey Lance gets drafted, that Jimmy Garoppolo stays for another year. Unless he completely wants out of this situation where they've tried to move off of him for 2 off seasons, right? Like it almost feels like you're in a relationship where this person's been trying to replace you. Like imagine being in a relationship and your partner comes to you and says, listen, I'm not looking to be traded, but if like 5 of these people come along, then I got to move on, you know? And it's like, he has to hear that all the time, right? You know,
I would want out.
Like, right, exactly.
Well, not only that, like even if you don't want out, like if you're sticking around because you know you're in love or whatever, like it's just awkward. Like
it's like you're just kind of
not
hanging
a good locker room.
Right, exactly. It doesn't feel right. So, look, we're getting to the end of the show. Alex Smith is retiring from football today, you know, and you guys are younger 49ers fans, right? You guys
not that much younger,
but young enough where Alex Smith is like one of your first quarterbacks that you saw on your screen.
Literally, right? I mean, he was the quarterback that they drafted the year that I started like paying attention to football. So pretty much, yeah, the one that I paid attention to on the screen for sure.
Absolutely. So Alex Smith, what can you say about the guy? We can go through all of the things that he went through, you know, with Washington, you know, being able to come back playing last year. But real quick, I'll go to you guys. What's your favorite Alex Smith moment? Because there's a few of them that you can pick from. I will start with Steph.
I feel like I know there's a lot, but like
we're all just gonna say the same one. We're all gonna say the same one.
On the count of 3, everyone.
Saints game.
Yeah, absolutely.
2, 3.
Yeah. I watched it 10 times again today.
You watched it again today?
Oh yeah,
the whole game.
No, not the whole game. No, just that play on repeat. Vernon crying.
That play still makes me emotional. Like when I watch it, because it just brings me back to that moment and like wow, they pulled this off. Like that was just a crazy game, just filled with emotions, and it was a emotional roller coaster for sure.
Yeah. Sorry. I was just gonna say it feels like he was like our last like tie to Candlestick and like that era really. I mean, I know Frank Gore is still hoping to play, but like I don't know, it's just like the end of an era when I heard that today.
Yeah, and this is a good one from Matt. Besides the Saints game, favorite moment is when he and Jimmy T, Tom Sula, beat Arizona after Mike was fired. Yeah, I mean, remember, Tom Sula got the job and he had the best winning percentage of any coach in the history of football. I think it was like 3 or 4-0 or something like that. So remember, for the revisionist history and the people that think that that wasn't the highest signing, well, you just signed the winningest coach of all time, 4-0. Like he had no losses. I'm just
That reminds me of something.
Uh-huh.
That reminds me of like a quarterback that won a few games and then got a gigantic contract.
Ma'am, are we talking about Alex Smith or
No, sorry. Wrong quarterback. Sorry. Back to the subject.
So I think we're all in agreement, right? The Saints is the game, right? You know, and you know what? Here, the NFC Championship against the Giants is a soft spot, but Alex Smith battled that whole game. There was a lot of things that went against him. You know, sometimes he gets a little bit too much flack for that, you know, couldn't make a play, something like that. Okay, cool. I've said things like that, you know, but when you go back and you watch it, Ahmad Bradshaw fumbled, Kyle Williams, if you fumbled just one time instead of twice, you probably win that game. You know, yeah, right. You know, I think that was one of the moments for me. It's just if that team wins that game, I don't think I have a doubt in my mind that they don't roll the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I don't think that team was equipped to beat the 49ers that year. Maybe I'm being a homer, maybe I'm being biased, but when it comes to that game, I always think about what could have been because that's the worst part about that entire era. You lose that game against the Giants, you lose in the Super Bowl, you lose in the NFC Championship. You could have won the championship all 3 of those years, easily, hands down, and no one would have argued with that. And if they would have made the Super Bowl, they probably would have. And if they would have converted in the Super Bowl, they would have. So, but I just wanted to make sure that Alex Smith got his flowers because, you know, I think that, you know, the toughness that he showed in Washington off of the injury is one thing. 11 offensive coordinators every single year, you know, being drafted ahead of a guy who is a generational talent as Aaron Rodgers is, he dealt with so much. And I think when I heard that interview about him talking about his last few days there, about how when he got injured, Cap took his place and Cap, you know, went through the roof. And he said he was nothing but happy for him. But he also said, I was playing the best football of my life. And that's the craziest part to hear stuff like that. It's like, it might have been the right decision right then, and I would have agreed with it. But Alex Smith even knows, and it's hard to argue that he wasn't playing the best football of his life in that time period, and it still wasn't enough to hold off Cap.
Well, I feel like I always thought that in that whole situation, like obviously Cap came in and did what he did, but I wasn't expecting him to stay in once Alex Smith was healthy again because Alex Smith had been playing that good. Obviously, it ended up being what it was, and Colin Kaepernick was amazing, you know, during those couple of years. But like to me as a fan, it was a shock that Alex Smith was replaced. I wasn't mad about it, but it was like shocking, and I felt bad for him.
I'll say this because we were just talking about how it would be so awkward if a rookie quarterback came in and how maybe Garoppolo would feel about that. And, you know, maybe he would ask for a trade. Alex Smith, on the other hand, is always used as an example of like a quarterback that like selflessly, you know, just was a mentor to Kaepernick. And he didn't have to do that. He was like a really good sport about that. Did the same thing in Kansas City. So he's just an all around like good guy. And he'll always be like a good example to how like quarterback should be, I feel like.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, class act all the way through. And he talked about that. He said, I could have just sat there on the bench. And he even got to that point in the interview. I implore you guys to look it up. I forget which one it was, but it was very candid. And he talked exactly about the entire time there. He said during the Super Bowl, he was getting ready. He was starting to warm up his arm. Remember, Cap kind of struggled at the beginning of that game. And he was like, you know, again, about being ready. Ultimate professional, being ready, because imagine having your number called in the Super Bowl. Are you ready for that? Did you think that was something that would happen? And I think it kind of just speaks to preparation and his professionalism, man. I mean, he's had to mentor Kaepernick, and then they draft Mahomes. He literally had to mentor him, and then, you know, you're moved on. I think that's kind of how people will remember him from the outside looking in. But as 49er fans, we have a different view of him just because, one, of the extenuating circumstances that he was brought into and the the chaos that ensued in his career. And then his professionalism and just a guy that's always going to be a fan favorite. And remember, that Saints game, no matter what you thought about that team that year, I don't know how you could walk into that game as a 49er fan and say, we're about to win this game. No questions asked. I was scared to death of this.
I just got chills.
Yeah. Like, so they go out there, they score a bunch of points. Then the Saints, all of a sudden, just, you're not going to slow them down for that long. It's still Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham and Darren Sproles and Marcus Colston. And they start scoring. And then, so even that bootleg, right, that Alex Smith had, the bootleg is like the play that everybody remembers. They scored again immediately right after. Jimmy Graham caught a long pass. He had to go back and do it again with less time. And, the catch is the one that everybody's going to remember. But that sequence of drives is so crazy to me because the game went from straight up defensive struggle to straight up back and forth at the end of that game. You got the ball, you scored. They got the ball, they scored. And he had to keep up with Drew Brees and do that. And, the defense was worn out because they had been on the field that long. But Alex Smith is always going to have a place in every single 49er fan's heart one way or another.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, what people love about Jimmy Garoppolo is that he came in during a time where the team had experienced a lot of loss and he kind of breathed life back into the team. And I think Alex Smith did that. Granted, it was a little later in his time with the 49ers than immediately when he came, but he was part of that first really like winning culture in a really long time. And I think that he'll be a legend forever Niner for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think what makes his time as a Niner, like how it started off just, pretty bad to becoming what it became, pointing to that Saints game especially, was that like a lot of people doubted him and just like the 49ers in general during that time. And so it just made that win and that playoff run just like so much sweeter, because I just remember everyone thinking like Alex Smith can't do it. He did it. So
he did it.
He did it against Drew Brees too. And, I just remember absolutely like, I was like, I live in Jersey, right? So I'm just hanging out with a bunch of Giants fans. And I remember jumping on like one of my friends' backs and like screaming at the top of my lungs after Vernon Davis caught that pass and just understanding that, man, I didn't think this team was going to be able to beat the Saints. And I was just like, and I started looking at everybody in the room, bring on the Giants. I was like, y'all don't want no smoke. Sorry. I mean, I got it wrong, but that's what I was feeling in the moment. I was on a high, but 42
best
minutes
feeling in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. 42 minutes in, I think we touched on everything. Angie, Steph, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate you. This is something that, I wanted to do because we've only done it 2 times before. So I wanted to make sure that, hey, I do work with women. We work with women, here and there.
A little bit.
Right. But let these guys know, let everybody who's watching know what you guys got going on. I know you're recording a new episode of the pod tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah. Go ahead, Steph.
Scheduling, not tonight.
Wednesday.
Yeah, on Wednesday we're gonna have Javi on, Mr. Javier Vega.
Oh,
yeah, he's got all the dirt, the inside scoop about the draft. So we're gonna have him on this week. Hopefully, have that episode out this week. Yeah, 49 Carats podcast at 49K Pod on Twitter. Check it out.
Yep. And follow both of them if you don't on Twitter. They're amazing followers. They're amazing follows right there. Ange writes, Stragosaurus. Yeah, I know. It's hard to like figure so like I'm over here too. And before you guys go, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody that you think is a 49er fan because you got good insight on here and I'm trying to produce as much good content as possible. So for Steph, for Ange and Jay, we're out of here.
Peace.